I said 13 years ago it was a mistake to give the president the authority to go to war if, in fact, he couldn't get inspectors into Iraq to stop what thought to be the attempt to get a nuclear weapon.
Is that the war in Iraq turned out to be the worst foreign policy blunder in the modern history of this country. Joe and I listened to what Dick Cheney and George Bush and Rumsfeld had to say. I thought they were lying. I didn't believe them for a moment. I took to the floor. I did everything I could to prevent that war.
Donald Trump is taking us pell-mell toward another war. We have a very important resolution. We just found out today that 4 Republicans are joining Democrats to go to him and say, you must have an authorization of military force if you're going to go to war with Iran.
If you've been listening to this, what we are hearing is 20 years of mistakes by the American government in the Middle East.
We can continue to remain engaged without having an endless commitment of ground troops. But what's going on right now is the president's actually sending more.
The American people are sick and tired of endless wars which have cost us trillions of dollars.
And with regard to this idea that we can walk away and not have any troops anywhere, including special forces, there's no way you negotiate or been able to negotiate with terrorists.
This has got to stop. It's not enough to say someday we're going to get out. No one on the ground, none of our military can describe what the conditions are for getting out. It's time to get our combat troops home. We need a coherent trade policy. We need a policy that actually helps our workers, our farmers. We need them at the table.
It is not so easy to put together new trade legislation. If this is passed, I think it will set us back a number of years. Bottom line here is I am sick and tired of trade agreements negotiated by the CEOs of large corporations
Senator Klobuchar, I'd like to bring
And I support the USMCA. I am glad that these improvements were made because I think we need a big trading bloc with North America to take on China.
I remember when they came around in the 90s, selling trade deals, telling us, don't worry about your slice of the pie. The pie will get so much bigger that everyone will be better off. And that promise was broken.
There will be no trade agreement signed in my administration without environmentalists and labor at the table. And there will be no trade agreement until we invest more in American workers.
And let me be very clear. If any of the women on this stage or any of the men on this stage win the nomination, I hope that's not the case. I hope it's me. But if they do, I will do everything in my power to make sure that they are elected in order to defeat the most dangerous president in the history of our country.
Bernie is my friend, and I am not here to try to fight with Bernie. But look, this question about whether or not a woman can be president has been raised, and it's time for us to attack it head on. And I think the best way to talk about who can win is by looking at people's winning record. So, can a woman beat Donald Trump? Look at the men on this stage. Collectively, they have lost 10 elections. The only people on this stage who have won every single election that they've been in are the women, Amy and me.
Medicare for all, which will guarantee comprehensive health care to every man, woman, and child, will cost substantially less than the status quo. Medicare for all will end the absurdity of the United States paying by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs and health care in general.
I think we need to be candid with voters. I think we have to tell them what we're going to do and what it's going to cost. And a 4% tax on income over $24,000 doesn't even come close to paying for between 30 and some estimates as high as $40 trillion over 10 years.
What Joe forgets to say is when you leave the current system as it is, what you are talking about are workers paying, on average, 20% of their incomes for health care. That is insane.
The real debate we should be having is how do we make it easier for people to get coverage for addiction and mental health? I have a plan for that. And then finally, what should we do about long-term care, the elephant that doesn't even fit in this room?
But let's keep in mind, when we come to a general election, We Democrats may argue among each other about the best way to do health care, but we're going to be up against a Republican incumbent who has cut health care for millions of people and is still trying to do that. I'll take our side of the argument any day.